Tonight, a serial killer has been behind bars in Clark County for decades. Tonight, investigators say that they believe more victims are out there.
Yeah, they're asking for the public's help as they revitalize 8 cases that have been cold since the 1970s.
Each one of these victims has a story behind it, has a family behind it, and we really want closure for those victims' families.
Well, Fox 12's Julia Lopez has been speaking with investigators. She joins us live in the studio. So what can you tell us about the man that they're focusing on tonight?
Well, first we'll bring you the original mugshot of 75-year-old Warren Forrest. He's been in prison since 1974 for the murder of 20-year-old Krista Blake. He was convicted once again just last year in the murder of 17-year-old Martha Morrison. He's currently serving 2 life sentences, but investigators say he's a suspect in 6 other cases, 4 murders and 2 disappearances, all from the early to mid-70s in Clark County.
So what has changed since the 1970s that prompted this investigation?
Well, DNA technology, for one. Sergeant Neiman, who you just heard from, says they can now test hair strands that weren't usable even 9 years ago when Morrison's remains were identified. He says they have about 70 hairs from Forrest's van that could be strong evidence in court if they match to other victims. They've given us this photo of 20-year-old Carol Valenzuela. She was murdered in 1974, and her remains were found near those of Martha Morrison in the woods of Dole Valley. That's in eastern Clark County. Both she and Morrison disappeared before the attempted murder of a 19-year-old woman near Lacamas Lake that same year. That woman escaped and was able to help lead detectives to Forrest. Since then, they've continued to link more cases to Forrest, like Morrison's. Sergeant Neiman says Forrest's conviction in her murder has been the cold case unit's biggest success.
This is by far the most complicated of our cold cases that we have because it's been investigated over so many decades by so many different investigators, and there's so many case files that are kind of intermingled.
These are all the women whose deaths or disappearances investigators believe can be tied to Forrest. All young victims who disappeared from Clark County, and investigators say have similarities in the method of crime. Neiman says they're sending the hair samples I mentioned earlier to private labs where they can be tested and hopefully bring some answers to families who have gone so many years without justice. But they're also asking for help from anyone who knew these victims or Forrest himself. Call Clark County's cold case tip line if you've never spoken with detectives, or if you have but remember anything a bit differently now. Reporting live in studio, Julia Lopez, Fox 12 Oregon.